Starship had its second launch ever last weekend, and it successfully broke through the carbon line and got to space. Now while I was watching, I was thinking to myself, dang, Starship is huge. And I wasn't wrong. Starship has a diameter of almost 30 feet, and it's almost 400 feet tall. So then I thought, wait a minute, how do you fly a rocket that big? Well, that's what I wanted to answer by simulating my own rockets, changing up the size and shape, and seeing how high they go. I used this software called Open Rocket to design and simulate different types of rockets. First, I designed a rocket, and then I changed up some of the parameters, making it longer, wider, changing up the size of the fins, and even messing with the nose cone. I ran a bunch of simulations to see what would actually make the rocket go the highest. If your rocket can get high enough to go to space, how's it supposed to get to Mars? The results are pretty simple. As the fins got bigger, the apoapsis, or the maximum height the rocket reached, got a little smaller, and the lateral distance it flew went down a lot. This means that the rocket flew a lot more vertical than it did diagonally. This is useful if you want your rocket to go high, but you also don't want it to go super far away from the launch site. What's up guys, it's post-production Ayan here. I forgot to mention something in the first recording. The fins don't just help with the lateral distance, they actually make sure your rocket is more stable. If you have smaller fins, your rocket isn't going to be as stable, so it can easily crash and tumble in midair. If you want to launch your rocket at supersonic speeds, you need much larger fins. This is because at those speeds, your rocket needs a lot of aerodynamic stability to make sure it doesn't tumble. Okay, back to the video. The rockets with the smoothest nose cones went the highest. The sharper nose cones, like the cone, went a lot lower though. This is probably just because the smoother nose cones are more aerodynamic than the sharper ones, which you can pretty easily tell just by looking at them. The last two are a little confusing though. When the length of the rocket increased, that max height actually decreased. And when the width increased, the max height of the rocket decreased a lot. So why didn't the rocket go higher when I made it bigger? I mean, Starship is huge, and its last flight proved it can make it to space. The rockets I simulated used solid rocket boosters, which means it didn't need giant tanks to hold fuel. These types of rocket boosters take up a lot less space, but they aren't very good for going to space or the moon. Because the rocket didn't need any fuel tanks, increasing the size actually just added dead weight that had no purpose. So when you're making a rocket, never make it bigger than it has to be. Go for the bare minimum. A lighter rocket will need less fuel and is going to go higher than a heavier one. Ayan, that's great, but you never answered our question. Okay, I hear you. You all want to know why Starship doesn't just crash when it gets launched. Starship has 33 engines at the bottom and 6 more at its top stage. It can hold, when fully stacked, 1,200 tons of propellant. Starship is that big because it needs all that space to hold all that fuel. So when you think about it, Starship isn't big. Starship is actually as small as it possibly can be to hold all the fuel and get off the ground and go into space. So at the end of the day, rocket design isn't about making rockets bigger. It's about making the rocket as small as possible while still making sure it can complete its mission. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, follow me on X, and subscribe to my newsletter. All the links are in the description. Thanks so much!